Okay. Okay. All right. We should be good. Hello. What a week it has been. Happy New Year, everyone. Oy. I am pretty tired, I won't lie. Uh, so, many of you already know I started a new job and I have been working really hard through that. I've been trying to work around my schedule with the job and YouTube and Patreon, and it's a lot to take on at one point. So I'm doing my best to navigate things, but we'll uh, we'll see how it goes. But I have high hopes for this year. Hello, Pia. Um, yeah, I have high hopes, and everything's going to work out, but it is challenging in the beginning stages to get everything sorted out and uh, yeah. But here we are. We're doing a live stream finally, and we're just here to have a good time. Happy New Year to you as well. Finally, able to get one of these back up and rolling again. Uh, Something that I've been doing a lot more recently is so every morning I drink a really nice get the day going cup of coffee. I do pour overs for that, but something I've been practicing a lot more is my latte art, and I know how to make really good coffee, not just in terms of traditional coffee, pour over or drip or whatever, but lattes, cappuccinos, flat whites, things like that. Um, I've been trying to get better with making cortados and macchiatos because that requires a lot of precision in terms of latte art. But in my regular lattes as well, it's a slow improvement, but I'm really excited to keep those going, and it obviously tastes amazing. um, I have from time to time I'll have someone come over and I'll make them a latte, and they'll just tell me. And this is I genuinely ask for their honest opinion if there are things that I can do to change it, and they tell me now it's really good stuff. So I'm really excited to know that my ability to make coffee that's really appreciated is growing. Um, Hello from Sweden. Hello, Maria. It's really happy. I'm really happy to have you here. um, I have a cup of cider for the same reason. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, my I just I've always loved the coffee making process, the brewing process, the actual grinding it, weighing it, tamping it, steaming the milk. It's just a really pleasant and enjoyable experience for me. So I really like it. Um, since I'm from Sweden, this is a bit of hearsay or hearsay, but I don't like coffee. That's fine. Not everybody does. Very similarly to there's very specific beer that I'm willing to drink outside of that, and it's not even like I choose to drink it. It's more of just like a social uh, a social beverage. So I don't really care for beer. The only beer that I've ever had that I've enjoyed was like beer when I was in Germany, and a Guinness, I guess. But outside of that, yeah, it's not really anything that I particularly enjoy. I don't really even enjoy drinking that much, to be honest. But no, I know tons of people that don't like coffee. Even for me, I enjoy doing coffee tastings where it's just black coffee and slurping it, getting it all over the tongue and everything like that. But uh, it's not common at all that I ever drink my coffee black. And coffee isn't for everyone, you know? Um, some people don't drink it for religious reasons. Some people don't drink it because their body can't handle caffeine well. Some people just don't like the taste. And honestly, all of those reasons are fine. So, you do you, you enjoy yourself with or without coffee in your life. It's my opinion. I just really enjoy the smell and the process of making it and the taste. But that's me personally. Um, Hello from the Netherlands. Man, I cannot speak today. Wish you all a happy and healthy new year. Nice to see you. Aw, thank you so much, Miranda. It's nice to engage with you as well. And happy new year. I don't drink alcohol at all. Me neither. Well, I mean that's not 100% true. I drink probably once every 6 months, and it's like a beer or a hard cider. Um, Maybe like a rum and coke or something, but even then, like, and here's something else. I don't drink soda. The only time I ever drink soda is when I do have that rum and coke, which is once every 6 months, once a year, maybe. Um, yeah, it's just not anything that I particularly care for. Um, but everybody has their own tastes, and that's awesome. I'm happy for whoever really loves that stuff. Um, I'm having a beer right now. Cheers, cheers, man. Uh, yeah, like this is everybody's just got to do their own thing. Nobody has to conform themselves to a particular milieu that says you need to enjoy this or you need to adhere to this or whatever the case is. You just do your thing, and you enjoy doing your thing because that's a part of what makes you you and happy, and all power to you. um Something I don't like the taste of alcohol. Yeah, I mean, very similar to coffee or to beer or to any alcohol or tea for that matter. There's a variety of tastes and a variety of notes and flavors that people can get really excited about. Or there's also people that uh, say, "Oh yeah, I've tried these types of coffee, light, medium, and dark, and I didn't like any of them, so therefore I don't like coffee, period." When there potentially could be something out there for you, but uh, you know, it's up to everybody's discretion whether or not they like something. Like, I know for me personally, every 2 or 3 years, I will eat something that I know I don't like. I don't like the smell of it. I don't like the taste of it, or whatever the case is. Um, and I just give it another go. I see if my taste buds have changed, if maybe there was some kind of mental block that prevented me from liking it before. And if I still don't like it, then great. But I always find it really exciting to be able to engage with things that I originally didn't like, but now I do, or things that I thought I liked, but no longer have been enchanted by, let's say. So, to each their own. Um, I that kind of feeds into my philosophy a little bit on just meeting people and people in general, and my own worldview on uh, I don't like being surrounded by people who think like me, people who have my exact same uh, values, ethics, principles, whatever. I love meeting people with differing views of the world and uh, engage with life in a way that is very different from mine because it lets me see their experience in the world and they inform me of it and I can grow from that. If I'm just surrounding myself with people who think like me, then I'm not growing outside of the things that I already know. So it's really nice to be around that. And when that's translated over to food, it's very much a yeah, I could eat the things I know I like, but isn't it so much more exciting to eat things that are more wild and exotic, you know? Um, at least that's my own perspective on it. To each their own again, but that's just how I feel about it. Um, I like coffee with milk and sweeteners and need a cookie. I mean, I also typically I just drink my coffee with couple teaspoons of sugar, some half and half. It's really nice. That nice, just on the darker side of tan color. It's just lovely. Um, yeah, it's nice. I'd say my favorite latte drink is probably a mocha. I just love that chocolate bitterness contrast. Plus, I'm a fiend for chocolate. um, but also when you're doing latte art with it, because the espresso itself is now darker and richer because you add in that chocolate, the latte art is much more pronounced and it's so beautiful. I love that contrast. So I'd say mochas are my favorite type of latte. Very simple as well, so it's just really nice. But coffee, milk, and sugar always can't go wrong with it if you're a fan of coffee, obviously. Um, I'm the same with root beer. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Always give it a go. Brussels sprouts, then and now. I'll say that for me personally, Brussels sprouts and cauliflower are two things that I just really dislike. Um, Now, that doesn't mean to say that there aren't certain ways of preparing them that I don't dislike, but as their own vegetable, let's say, it's just I just can't do it. Like I love broccoli, I love asparagus. Like it's not vegetables themselves, it's just those two things in particular that I just can't do, man. I don't know why, too. Like another example, I love soup. I love all types of soup. Well, not all types, but most types of soup. But one of them, split pea soup, I can't do it. I just can't do it. But every so often if I'm out and about and I see a place that has good reviews for it and is pretty affordable, I'll give it a go and we'll see how it goes. But as of this moment in time, I still can't do it. um, your tastes do change, absolutely. Honey is my go-to sweetener in coffee. I don't meet a lot of people that do honey for coffee, so but I do think it is underrated. I have had honey in my coffee before, and it's even though it's not my preference, I definitely see the appeal to it. So good on you for that. Um, I like both Brussels sprouts and oh, it just means our tastes are uh polar opposite. And that's fine, tastes are what they are. We're there's a lot of things that contribute to it, whether it's our own mentality towards those particular foods, alongside our lived experiences, alongside our genetics and what we gravitate more towards. So there's a lot that goes into it. Roasted cauliflower. I mean, yeah, again, to each their own. All of you just you keep enjoying your things. I will enjoy my my broccoli and asparagus. But here we are, finally back again. I think later on today, I'm going to go to another cafe and ask to do a coffee tasting with some baristas. I did that yesterday, um, when I was able to get some filming and editing done, but it's still not exactly like, first off, the editing isn't, how do I phrase this? There's a lot to be done because I have a lot of videos that I've filmed recently, but there's a lot more to be done, and I was only able to get through a little bit of it because I had a lot more to do yesterday. Um, but going beyond that, I was able to sneak in a coffee tasting over at a cafe, and I just walked in and I asked one of the baristas there, saying, "Hey, not really here to order anything in particular, but I'd like to do a coffee tasting with somebody if that's okay." And she's like, "Yeah, give me a minute." And she just asked around, saying if anybody was willing to do a coffee tasting, and one of them agreed. And she came over, made some drip coffee, paired it with a cheese Danish, which was quite lovely. And that was my first time ever having a cheese Danish, by the way. And I didn't expect the cheese itself to be so sharp. uh, it was very. At first, it was jarring, and then it transitioned into kind of this bizarre taste, and then it wasn't so bad. But I wouldn't order it naturally. But it was the pairing with the coffee, and we cupped it. We analyzed the aroma. We scrutinized the taste by slurping, and it was a whole nice experience. I asked her some questions about um, how she likes being a barista, and her what she likes about the job. Asked her a couple things about just her as a person, and it was very pleasant. That's also a cafe, not necessarily that I frequent, but come in from time to time and set up my chessboard and just read. So she asked, "Are you the guy that comes in to play chess?" And I said yes, and she's like, "Cool, it's really nice to meet you." So that was a really pleasant experience, and I hope to see her at some point in the future. Uh, Yeah, I drink little alcohol maybe once a month. The green alcohol drink, Pisang Mbon with ice. I don't think I know that drink in particular, but yeah, once a month, you do your thing. Again, I'm very much once every 6 months, once a year maybe. Because for those that don't know, I was an alcoholic for a brief period in my life, and it just made me really miserable. So I stopped it, thankfully, and and then I transitioned to other addictions, and and then I was able to get those addictions out of the way. Um, and now I'm living life where there are very few addictions in my life, which is really nice. I'm working on those as well. And I'm just living life with intention, direction, uh, purpose, but with a certain level of fluidity, allowing just things to happen, and uh, doing my best to not maintain any level of a rigid nature, let's say. Um, but yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. Like waking up every morning, being excited, motivated, fueled by your desire to accomplish greatness every single day of your life, and that becomes very exhausting. But I'm trying to generate that level of energy every day and feel um, that power surge through me. um, because the moment that I can really feel that, I feel like everything's gonna fall into place a lot easier. even though things are falling into place and I've been taking a lot of action in my life to structure everything well. Um, and I'm setting myself up for success while also making sure that I take time to smell the roses, that I take time not just for myself, but am able to experience the world in a more fluid fashion while also being grounded to who I am and what drives me. Uh, Adhering to everything that I've structured for myself and all of these things. Um, Ultimately, create a full sense of freedom is the goal. Well, not the goal, but I don't know. It's really nuanced and really complex, and that's a whole conversation that'll take hours for me to really scrutinize and pick apart. But my point being is, I'm really happy that I got rid of that particular addiction, and now I can enjoy a drink every so often without feeling the pull to come back to it. Um, for the longest time, I didn't like asparagus. Then one day, I just liked it. Yeah, you know, that's how it is. Sometime I remember when I was a kid, I loved Capri Suns. And then I tried it as an adult, and I thought it was just horrible. So ebb and flow, ebb and flow. Ooh, cheese Danish, yum. Yeah, I mean, again, for me, it's not something that I would choose as a default, but I definitely see the appeal to it. So all power to you. Uh, I bought my daughter an AeroPress for Christmas. Not sure if she's tried it yet. An AeroPress. I'm not quite sure what that is. Let me check that out. AeroPress. Interesting. That looks like a combination of like a French press and a manual espresso machine. It's very bizarre. I didn't even know about those. But that's really cool. Let me know how she likes it. um, yeah, I'm always interested in new coffee gadgets. Let's say. So let's see how that goes. Um, Good for you. Congrats on getting out of the trap. Thank you. Um, I'm severely addicted to chocolate, so now I don't have any. So now I don't have any. Yes, it's a thing. Yeah, uh, anything that gives you an incredible surge of dopamine, I think is very easy to get addicted to, even if there's no chemical addiction, like addictive qualities to it. Like, I remember one time, and I've said this in past streams and videos as well. There was a period of time when I was really addicted to smoking weed, and people said you can't be addicted to it because there's no addictive substance in it. And there are a couple of books. Well, no, there's one book in particular called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and I've mentioned this in videos before, where that book very accurately describes and scrutinizes what a habit is and how it manifests in our life as impulses and compulsions, and um, how we're not as conscious in our decision making in our day-to-day life as we like to believe ourselves to be. Like, the moment a certain cue happens in the day, we just automatically do it. We're motivated to do something even though it's not necessarily something we are thinking about doing or want to do. An example for that, for me personally, which I know it's a bad habit, but it's really hard for me to catch myself in the act of doing it, is biting my nails. Um, I do have nail clippers that I make conscious efforts to use, but it's really tough for me. Yes, there's a certain level of stress and anxiety that comes with living life, but it's habit. And even though I'm much more aware of the habit as it happens now, it's it just happens. And when I realize that it's even happening, it's it's a little late. Um, and and it's really shocking to know that there are actions that I commit to that are just motivated by habit. So even though there might not be something chemical in it, there are certain cues throughout the day, um, whether a person is experiencing something or hears something, uh, or your body just says, "Okay, it's now time to do this," and your body's just motivated to do it. Um, you know, it all starts with awareness and recognizing the complexity and nuance as to how that habit was formed and generated and how you experience it, what you get out of it. And uh it's thanks to that book and James Clear's Atomic Habits that I was able to kick out a lot of really bad addictive habits. But again, there's still just things that are really, really tough to nix. Um, so to each their own, but it's really, really tough to maneuver around these things. Uh, Balance is important. Yes, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't even necessarily mean to say that you can't oscillate between sides of things. That's part of the human experience. Uh, is recognizing, like, for me personally, a big, big goal in my life is to understand and to sympathize with how people experience the world, which contributes into a bunch of other aspects of my life. Um, but for a lot of people, people experience things in extremes, and I lived in extreme environments in terms of uh, philosophies on life and ways of engaging with life, ways of thinking, and behaving. And I lived in extremes for long periods of my life. And uh, after recognizing how miserable that made me, and I was able to regulate myself, I was able to become so grounded in who I am and my beliefs and my ethics, values, and principles that I was able to go out and engage with not just people who are also well balanced and regulated, but with their own view of the world, but people who are still caught in that extreme, and be able to sympathize, even empathize, and understand where they're at and not proselytize them to come into this total neutral state of being, because I think very, very few people are capable of maintaining such a level of balance. And when I say that, I mean people like the Dalai Lama. I'm talking like real, like, people who spend their entire lives mastering this form of uh, mental discipline and uh, blissful living. And all I'm saying, long story short, to succinctly wrap it up rather, is just to say, uh, to oscillate beyond the fine line of perfect balance is perfectly fine, and I think adds a lot of flavor and personal excitement to life. That's why I don't consider impulse necessarily a bad thing. Impulse can lead you to a lot of really great places and can really motivate you into action for a particular, not just cause, but thrilling adventure in one's life. Uh, OMG, so nice to catch you live. Love your reactions. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Uh, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Um, I used to bite my nails. Mom put horseradish on my fingers. Yeah. My best friend actually, uh, I'm pretty sure her mom put, I think, a mixture of lemon juice and apple cider vinegar on her nails. Uh, and you know, I see how that works, and I see the effects of it. Um, I don't know what's really stopping me from doing that. I think it's because I don't want to look at my nails and feel like that acrid taste in my mouth. Um, I want to find another way, but we'll see. Nail polish. I actually did wear nail polish for a short period of time just to see how I felt about it. I don't like the look for me personally on me. Um, I don't like the process of taking it off. And when I did catch myself in the compulsion to bite, I bit it even with it on, even though it was disgusting. Um, so nail polish didn't work for me, and for a multitude of reasons. But I see why it does work. Um, Most of the time, we work in autopilot mode. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, yes, we all have habits and rituals throughout the day. It could be anything. It really can be. Absolutely. Um, and it's not even things that we're, again, really consciously aware of. It's just something we're naturally drawn to do. I have a friend who is a lot like you. He recently discovered personal boundaries. That, yeah, yeah. I only laugh because I've always been, well, not always, but I've been aware of boundaries, but I'm it's always been really tough for me to actually internalize, because for me, I really really dislike it when people think they have a say over the decisions I make or how I live my life, even if I walk into a particular situation knowing that there's a lot of pitfalls, a lot of dangers, and it's probably the wrong decision. But still having the intention of walking through it anyway. Um, it strikes me in a very negative way that people have the temerity to that they have this thought that me telling you this is for your own good, where my own good is me going out and making my own decisions and feeling the repercussions of those mistakes. My own good is not you telling me what to do. So I have a recalcitrance, let's say, towards not just particularly authority, but just towards people who think they can really tell me what to do. I'm going to live my life in a way that's rich and authentic to me. Obviously, not in a way that hurts others and still operates within the bounds of society. But I don't know. There's a lot of nuance that goes into that. Um, but I, but because of that, it also comes into I really dislike telling others what to do. Um, if they come to me for advice or just need someone to talk to, I'm there and I'm present and I'm actively listening. But in a situation that was called once where a very very nuanced and very complex situation came into my life one time, and I really can't go into the details of it, so I'm sorry I'm keeping it vague. But at that time, it was, how do you feel about this thing happening? And I could have very easily said, these are my boundaries. I don't want you to do this. Um, but because of my own distaste for being told what to do. I just said, go off and do your thing. Um, and it not only led that person from, or it not only led that person to feeling a certain level of personal guilt, but it also made me feel absolutely miserable that entire process. So it wasn't until we directly communicated after the fact saying, well, this is what you said. And I reflected on that and I said, you're right. And look at how both of us ended up because of it. So it just came to the point of, okay, time to reflect, time to really recognize what personal boundaries actually mean and how we're going to navigate the course of this particular relationship through these boundaries. And it's been great, honestly. And when I say relationship, I don't necessarily mean a romantic relationship, just any relationship forged with another person. Believe in yourself. You can do more than you think. Absolutely. This is something that I think about human beings all the time. And it drives me nuts when people like just say, oh, I've lost all my faith in humanity. Humanity is incredible. Some of our some of the worst attributes that people label humanity for are contribute to some of our best qualities as well. And an example of that could easily be when we operate in a very specific way of, I want to do good, I want to show compassion towards other people. That's a beautiful thing, but it needs to be genuine. Because what I notice a lot, in especially Western society, is we censor ourselves. We say, okay, well, I know that me saying these particular things are going to land me in hot water in this particular milieu. So I'm going to ensure that I create this persona, this veneer of who I not only want to express to other people, but who I want to express to myself, saying that I am virtuous, I am righteous, I am morally good. And I think the intention is really beautiful and the intention is there, but that ugliness of unawareness, of masking who you truly are and living in balance, is, I think, terrifying. There was in Robert Greene's The Laws of Human Nature, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I'm rereading it right now, actually. And there was a story of a woman named Katerina Sforza. And she was a woman who lived in the late 1500s, early 1600s. Late 1400s, early 1500s. And her family had just recently risen to power. And therefore, when she was born up until roughly age 10, she had so many directions in which she can grow her life. And she was very educated, and her father even gave her the tutor he had, which was almost unheard of because women had very particular roles and men had very particular roles. But, she was given a really great education. The father trained her in swordsmanship and hunting and really buffed up her physical prowess and strength. And she was just a fully recognized human being, really capable in a myriad of ways. And she really looked up to her father because he took on the biggest animals when they went hunting without a hint of fear. And, well, I would like to believe that it was described without fear, but I would like to believe it's more courage, operating with strength, and while in the face of fear kind of thing. But I digress. The whole point of it being is that she later went on to make herself and her name well known throughout all of Italy because of her tenacious attitude, because of her ability to express strength, to go beyond the roles of what a woman was, and what a man is, and fully operated without being restricted by specific norms. And that's incredibly captivating. It's captivating to anybody. But it's also very threatening to a lot of people. A lot of people really want to say, no, be put in this box so I can understand you better, or be put in this box so we can categorize you as this thing, and we don't have to put in the extra work to really recognize the kind of person that you are. And the thing is that all human beings are capable of such greatness. But there's so many limitations based off of how we perceive society, how we perceive ourselves, a certain level of self-loathing or pride, or an excess of any of the cardinal sins, or whatever the case is. There's always something that makes us believe that we're not truly living up to our potential, but always, but that presence of potential is always there. Human beings are capable of true, incredible greatness, just as much as we're capable of some of the purest of evils. And it's really, and that's something else too. I hear people say, oh, this person would never do this. That's not the kind of person that this person is. But all human beings are capable of producing great goods and great evils, even if the person has lived their whole life righteously and in a moment of weakness, they commit to an act of evil. Or a person who's lived their whole life committing heinous crimes contributes something of true beauty, true, genuine good. And, that can leave a huge lasting imprint on us, just in terms of, if a person who has severely wronged us, are they now incapable of producing good because your view of them is this evil, villainous, monstrous thing instead of a human being? Or is there hope for redemption? Are you the one who is capable of providing that second chance? And if you're not, are you at least willing to look at them as they actively go out into the world and attempt to produce goodness, if that is their true desire in their heart, if they truly do wish to change genuinely? And there's a lot of mixed feelings and a lot of nuance that goes into these things. So it's always really a beautiful thing when I watch true beauty unfold in the world in that way. Which is why I ultimately like to believe in, at least presently, and again, there's a lot of nuance that goes into it, but putting it succinctly, just rather saying there aren't really truly evil people or truly saint-like virtuous people in the world. There are human beings that produce actions, either many actions or few actions of great evil, great good, and the actions in between, where you could believe something is good, but it's being fueled by something villainous, or you could be doing something that is wrong, or something that to be cruel. And I actually see more of the latter than I see of the former. So, with all of that said, humanity is extremely nuanced, and there's so much to unpack when it comes to understanding another human being and recognizing what's really important when you engage with someone else. And to me, what's really important is seeing them as a human being with their own lived experience and something of true value that they can share and express onto others. Even if it's not the most virtuous, pure, righteous thing in the world, there's value and there's something to learn and to grow from, if they are willing to express it in a way that's real to them. Um, and and I think there's a lot of real beauty in that. And to the people that are, for lack of a better way of saying this, destined for greatness, um, there's a certain level of grandiosity that comes into play there. Um, Michael Eisner being a really great example of that, just generating a legacy and being blinded by that legacy. His actions were very intense and very strong and very forward. But that level of grandiosity just completely consumed him in many key aspects. Not to say that every decision he made was a bad one, but he is a classic example of aggrandized grandiosity. So in many key ways, it's just sitting with another person, recognizing what their potential is, if they not have only reached that potential, but just hearing their story, hearing what prevents them from moving forward, or what stops them from achieving the things that they want in their heart more than anything, even if the things that they truly want in their heart aren't necessarily righteous. And it, again, to each their own. And it's really hard accepting the fact that some people want things that might not be virtuous, because we all want to believe in the goodness of others. Of course we do. And I genuinely believe that the goodness of others is the goodness of all people, is always present and is always there to be acted upon. But it's just such a nuanced conversation, and I can't go farther into it. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk about it for the rest of the stream. Loved your reactions to Eric. You get these conductor hands going like I do, blows my mind. Yeah, I mean, when I really feel music, I just really enjoy feeling the 3 or the 4 or the whatever, the 6. So it's just really nice being able to flow with the music. It makes me really happy to do so. It's your decision, yeah. When I was 4 or 5, I told my mother's friend, "You're not the boss of me." Yeah, that kind of, not just independence, but that kind of recalcitrance forms at a very, very early age. Something else within, again, the Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, when he was describing grandiosity itself, it starts when essentially you're born, where every time you cry in an ideal home situation, you're being catered to. You feel omnipotent. Every need, every desire, every craving is immediately satisfied with your mother's attention. Whether you need to be fed, you need to be changed, whatever the case is, always at your disposal is the most important figure in your life. And that's incredibly powerful. And as you start aging and going through life, slowly you start recognizing that the mother has more obligations to more than just you. And that kind of detachment, even though it's not like a permanent detachment, but it's not that 24/7 care. That independence, that pull away from her, starts to hurt, but it's a very natural and very beautiful process, because then you start gaining independence. But you also start gaining a certain level of resentment and start exploring these feelings and start exploring more of the nuance of humanity. And it's very terrifying, especially when you don't have powerful, knowledgeable figures in your life that are able to explain these things to you. So being able to navigate all of these nuances is extraordinarily difficult. And for me personally, even though I still don't like being told what to do, there's a certain level of humility that I have to accept when I go into projects that require
the teamwork of multiple people. So it's tough navigating these things. So I definitely see that. Um, Giving advice is hard. Yeah, I mean, all we have when we give advice is our lived experience, the knowledge we learn from others, and the knowledge we learn from books. So being able to listen to a person wholeheartedly and say, I'm not telling you what to do, but based off of your particular situation and you telling me every single detail about this situation, that I'm listening intently, I'm going to ask you more questions and say, out of everything that you've told me, this is how I would navigate the situation. But also, I sympathize and I understand the choices you've made up to this point. And even though I think that things might have gotten better or worse based off of these decisions you've already made, uh, I choose to believe in you. And I choose to believe in your ability to make decisions. And with that said, you've given your 2 cents as to what you would do in that type of situation. Um, And it's really hard to express that because you're not actively going through all of the emotions that come with the situation that they're caught in. But it's really, really tough because on a ground level, like when I first learned about Stonewall Jackson in the American Civil War, I I was just like, oh, that's so badass. He just sat there on his horse with cannons being blown at him, feet away from him, and he just stood his ground, unflinching. Like, it blew my mind. And a small thought in the back of my head said, I would be unflinching. No, no, I would not. But we like to idolize and idealize ourselves to achieving certain things. But if we were actually presented with the opportunity to own up to our own self image, I feel many of us would be crushed under that kind of pressure. Um, people aren't as virtuous as they seem, and people aren't as evil as they seem, which is why I always try to maintain a certain level of skepticism as to the front of what people first present me as their natural, fully recognized state of being. Um, I am autistic, so I face many obstacles. It's sometimes difficult to adapt to society. My 2 daughters have it too. Yeah, I as someone who isn't autistic, but growing up, there was someone who ironically had the same last name as me, who was very autistic, but he also had savant syndrome, and his ability to learn and to recognize patterns was unmatched by anybody I've ever met, even to this day. Like we played DDR when we were younger, or Dance Dance Revolution to those who don't know what that is, which is just a video game where you step on arrows. And he went on to the hardest difficulty on the hardest song and nailed every single thing flawlessly. It was crazy. But his ability to communicate through speech was very, very restricted. And he was ostracized by a lot of people. But there was a real power underneath that not even weakness, but that perceived weakness. And there's I think especially from autistic people, there's a lot to learn and a lot of beauty and power within them as people. So, all power to you and your daughters. And I'm really excited to see what you guys go out and do into the world. I'm sure it's extraordinarily difficult with your own obstacles, but that's really beautiful. The fact that in a certain key way, yes, you have certain obstacles in the society in which you live, but in also some other key ways, you have, at least in my perspective, very rare abilities and powers that enable you to uh, perform on other frequencies that the layman cannot. So, all power to you, and I wish you and your daughters the absolute best. Uh, how do you deal with the beast within? It's hard to acknowledge that it's even there. There's always hope for redemption. I guess I'm something of a cynical optimist. Yeah, I know it's a contradiction. Not really. Not really. There is a book called How to Be a Stoic by, oh my gosh. Hold on, let me look this up. How to Be a Stoic by Massimo Piluici. There we go. So that book describes the origins of cynicism, and it's not necessarily something that we in society recognize as something like, for me personally, I always recognized cynicism as pessimism and them being synonyms. But no, there's a lot of nuance and beauty that goes into the original cynics, but I obviously see all of the pitfalls that also went into cynicism as well. Um, but when it came to dealing with the beast within, the first thing is, in my perspective, it all starts with self-awareness. Because most people aren't even aware that it's there. I find that a lot of people in Western society, especially, and that's just because that's my milieu, that's where I live, but I don't know if this is the case in all other regions. Like, I got considerably less of this when I was in Germany. And I would like to experience more of how people operate in the rest of the world as well by traveling. But as of right now, where I'm currently bound, it just comes with awareness. You are not as virtuous as you seem, and you're not as evil as you seem. You operate with intentions that aren't pure, but you also know that you want to generate goodness in the world. And I feel most people operate on that line, but aren't aware of it. They want to believe that they're this virtuous, truly good kind of person, which is why they're so vehement about correcting others. Because the more others commit to a flawed state of being, the more it shines a light on their own insecurities and their own darkness. So I think that's the first step. The second step is doing what I believe is what courage is, which isn't the absence of fear, but committing to action in the face of fear. So being able to deeply reflect or meditate or whatever really connects you into yourself and grounds you, and just being able to say, who am I as a person? Not the kind of person that I present to others, not the kind of person that I convince myself to be, but what truly drives my actions, what truly motivates me to get things done. And it can come from a very cynical place, like you were mentioning, or a very good place, a very righteous and pure place. But whatever the case is, it all comes back to the point of recognizing what your darkness is, confronting it directly, and realizing that that darkness, or as Carl Jung describes it, your shadow, and being as familiar with your shadow as possible. Not letting it consume you, but recognizing that it is a part of you. And that it's not necessarily something to get rid of, but something that you can use for goodness. And then, because at least when I think of a beast, I think of a large instinctual creature that has tremendous power and uh, that is unfettered, uninhibited, lacks any conscience, um, and just operates purely off of instinct to attack anything that is in its path. And when I recognize what that is, at least to me personally, I see that as something that is a part of me that has tremendous power and can invigorate and fuel my actions with so much more gusto and so much more energy that I can wake up and feel excited and powerful in my actions and march into battle every single day with uh, eyes of optimism, let's say, or eyes of realism, but still have energy and that childlike sense of wonder to go into it anyway. So I think recognizing what the beast is, your personal beast, not other people's beasts, and understanding the power that it has, recognizing that it's a part of you, and going out into the world and truly doing your own thing, not camouflaging or masquerading, putting on this facade of this is what I want other people to see me as, this is what I want to see myself as, versus this is who I actually am as a person. Because those are two different things. Like I was using with that Stonewall Jackson metaphor. Yes, I'd like to believe that I would be very strong and confident in the face of imminent death, but I wouldn't know that until I was put in that situation. And most likely, I would probably be crushed by that kind of stress. So, regardless of how confident and motivated I am to do the things that I know that I really want to do. So, it all depends on the person and what you're willing to do to confront darkness. For me personally, I was submerged in darkness for so long that I couldn't that even to this day, my apartment almost all the time is dark because for me personally, I have a sense of comfort in the dark. Yes, whenever I need to get things done, I operate in the light with lights on, or I really enjoy going outside when it's warm and sunny, and I love feeling that warmth, seeing the beautiful world around me. Um, but my favorite weather out of all of that, even though I really love those things, is overcast. Just having this cool, misty sensation, and it's almost spectral. It's ghost like, and it's just so. It makes me so comfortable, and I love feeling that because that's part of my experience living in the darkness is that really cool, very numb, almost numb feeling, um, where there's not really a light to be seen, but just relying on your own inner strength to navigate through hardship. And every time that I experience being in the dark or being in those overcast skies, it always draws me back to that feeling of inner strength, being with myself and recognizing what that inner beast is and recognizing that as part of myself while knowing that this other part of myself is the one steering me, is the one guiding the beast into the actions that I want to commit to, which ultimately has led me out of addictions. So I I hope that answers your question. Um, Happy New Year, Mar. um, uh,
Keno Kenuil.
I'm sorry, I can't really pronounce that name well, but I did my best. Happy New Year 2025. I wish you health. Uh, we can do when we are healthy. Yes, yes, absolutely. Happy New Year to you as well. Um, Everyone's unflinching until there's a cannon pointed at your head. Exactly my point. Uh, well, this is my first time coming to your live stream. Understand that the darkness can be comforting, but there's a difference between that and dark depression. Well, when I was resting within the darkness, I was within dark depression, is my point. Um, I was destroying my body, not just in terms of the foods that I was eating, but in actual physical harm. And I was rejecting any sign of help or comfort from those who actually cared about me. I was making enemies left and right. I pushed anybody that cared about me away uh, because I didn't want to burden them with my struggles. Therapy never worked for me, only because I hadn't really met a therapist that really listened to me. So I just felt so alone. And so I definitely empathize with what it means to be in dark depression, which is why I turned to so many addictions to begin with, just to make it bearable. Because the weight that you feel with that depression, it's like Mjolnir is pressed against every single part of your body. It's just it's hard to get out of bed because of that kind of weight, that kind of pressure. Um, which is all the more reason why, if you do have the audacity to develop inner strength, to create true, to recognize oneself as who you are and not depending on your self image to tell you who you are, to actually form this inner strength to be a shining beacon and to allow other people into your life to also reflect that shining beacon. That there's nothing wrong with letting people who love you help you. Quote from Iroh, Avatar: The Last Airbender. um, it's so beautiful seeing the beauty of humanity come out in full force. And with all of that said, because you know the true power of dark depression, um, if you are actually able to get out of that depression yourself, obviously with help from others, but recognize that your inner strength did all of the legwork, then all of a sudden, at least subconsciously, I was able to overcome the hardest adversity in my life. Like, one of my friends, he's one of my closest friends, and I respect him to no end. He's just incredible. He was homeless for a long period of time, and through that dark period of his life, to this day, even though he still experiences a ton of stress and a lot of hardship and obstacles in his path, he's very bright and very optimistic. He serves as a shining light, and he's one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen in terms of how he carries himself, his character, his demeanor, and he and I could not be more opposite on our worldviews. The way he engages with the world, his upbringing, everything is just so antithetical to each other, but we love and respect each other so much just as people, and we also love and respect our journeys that we've helped each other through. So it's really something beautiful, and that's why it's really important to recognize the strength of inner strength and create and doing the legwork yourself to get out of dark depression. Because if you know that you can overcome that darkness, those dark depths, then all of a sudden the inner strength you have automatically becomes stronger than the depression itself. It doesn't mean to say that you can't fall back into that spiral, but you at least now know that you can depend on yourself to get out of it, because it's not forever. Um, you know, there's just, again, so much nuance that goes into it, and nothing, very similar to human beings, nothing is as evil or as dark or gloomy as it seems to be, very similarly to nothing is as righteous, pure, and radiant as it appears to be. um, if you want mist, you should move to England. Fair enough. The oppressive nature of that dark depression makes you feel alone. I went through my own darkness, and now I hope to create art to help bring brightness in the dark. Yeah, absolutely. And this just goes back into the conversation of the beast. It's recognizing that there are innate dark qualities to our being just as much as there are innate bright qualities to our being. And it's learning how to navigate what both of those are, scrutinizing them, reflecting on how they contribute to our being as a human being, and how we can mold them and utilize them towards our productive outcomes. The worst thing I ever went through is from 2019 to 2023, losing 15 people. Ooh. Some from suicide, others from natural causes, but that pressure was thick. 15 people, that's intense. I really I wish you the best in that regard. But you're still here. You're still fighting through it. And I think the beautiful thing about that is that those people have lived their life. And while their causes might be different, and while they might have had their own struggles and their own challenges in life, I think it's really beautiful to reflect on the beauty of their memory, and to recognize the impact, the profound, beautiful impacts, the shining impacts that they've had on you as a person. And that's at least how I navigate loss. So there's something really beautiful about not just being able to experience good times with others, but remembering others and the legacy that they've given, even if they think that they didn't have one. I've been there too. These days I have medications. This allows me to think things through without going too far into the pit. Whatever helps you, honestly. For me, I've tried a variety of medications and they've all let me down. So for me personally, I have a great sense of confidence in my ability. I have a great sense of confidence in my ability to navigate through my own darkness, because I was forced to develop my sense of inner strength in order to get me out of that without any dependency on medications or other people. But that being said, I do let people into my life considerably more than I used to. I do find value in what it means to engage with certain medications. And it absolutely works for some people, and I'm not discounting that. I just know that I feel so much more confident in my own being, knowing that I was able to navigate it without a sense of dependency. But that being said, there are many things in my life that I am dependent on, that, very similar to addictions, I'm shortening that list. But it is tough. Living life is really, really tough. We want to live up to these expectations and standards for ourselves, but the self-image rather, but it's really hard navigating these things. I've been able to have therapy help a lot, but I had to be at that point for sure. Yeah, therapy isn't going to do anything if you don't want it to do anything. So that's really beautiful. I'm really happy for you there. Also rediscovering music through Jeff and voice play. Let me tell you something. It is always incredibly dazzling meeting or listening to artists that really have a sense of integrity for their music. Um, Artists that were a shining beacon for me, actually, were Jacob Collier and Cosmo Sheldrake. Very free in their music, had a deep understanding of what kind of music they produced, their style, their aesthetic, and just put it out there. And even though, and beatboxing music especially as well, very, very much in tune with that. And there's just a lot of, there's a lot of beauty in not just music, but music is how I connect with art. And you as well, it sounds like, which is wonderful. I'm thrilled for you. But just in art in general. And that's why it drives me nuts when people are like, art is so pointless or useless. And I'm like, art connects us to something bigger than ourselves. It connects us with both our inherent nature, like even just taking a walk through nature is witnessing the earth's art in a key sense. Looking up at the sky and seeing these beautiful orange clouds from the sunset, or this beautiful early morning fog just at dawn, just before dawn, you know, like just before sunrise, and seeing the snow-capped mountains just hit with that first ray of sunlight. There's just something so mesmerizing and beautiful about it, and it connects us to ourselves. It truly makes us happy in our mental. So, like, art is just such a profound and beautiful form of expression, and just something incredible. And I'm really happy that you were able to help navigate yourself through the medium of art, especially music. It's beautiful. Um, I was 20 years away from music, but last year was the year of self-discovery, and oh, the art I create helps so much. All power to you. I'm happy for you. Uh, I don't like crowds and need structure and regularity to deal with everyday things, but I can say now to other people if I don't feel good about it. That's that's wonderful. You know your bounds. You've fully identified what it is that, like, what your limitations are, and said, this is where I draw my lines, my bounds. And but you also try to navigate and grow them. But uh you know, there, that's how to do it, man. Like, that's it. So all power to you, Miranda. I'm at least from this end, you know, I'm proud of you. uh I now call Jeff's Carol of the Bells as Daryl of the Bells. And I created the video that showcases that. That's awesome. Uh, all the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of a single candle. Disputed whether that was St. Francis or someone else, but I love the quote anyway. All the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of a single candle. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, there's nothing wrong with letting people who love you help you. Uh, while it is always best to believe in oneself, a little hope from others can be a great blessing. Um, there will always be a light in the dark. There will always be a lighthouse in the storm to guide you to safety. You know, I absolutely know what it's like to lose all hope and to be completely surrounded by darkness, but that doesn't mean that light isn't there. You just have to put in the legwork to find that light, and it's tough. It is tough, but it's there, and you have to have faith that it's there. Uh, create the creativity scratches my brain. My dopamine is satisfied. I firmly believe that that everyone has a need for creative expression, at least in some form. Even if you're not an artist or classify yourself as an artist, in any capacity. Like I was just mentioning, taking a walk through nature and just, you don't even have to do anything but just walk, um, or guide yourself through something if you can't walk, um, and just look at the world around you. Look at the beauty of human beings. Look at the beauty of Earth's natural design, of a waterfall, a cascading waterfall, or the stars in the night sky, or the aurora borealis if you're able to see that, or the incredible intricacy of a small little flower on the ground surrounded by life underneath you, whether it's earthworms or ants or blades of grass or other little flowers, and the beautiful intricacies of each blade, each petal. Like, I remember I was picking up trash at a park, I want to say 3, 4 weeks ago. And I haven't been able to because the park next to me has been under heavy construction. And I, oh, you know what? I can't create excuses for myself, even though there is a park that's like a lot farther away from me. It's more like 15, 20 minutes away. And I could go to it if I really set aside the time for it in comparison to going to the one that's closer to me. So I don't have an excuse, but I haven't done it in a while, which I would like to, though. Um, but I digress. My point is that one day I went to a park and I just saw this flower on the ground. And it reminded me of a time where like a 5 or 6 year old gave me the same little, like it's a dandelion, but in its yellow flower state. And she just gave it to me, and the stem was broken and it was really dirty. But I thought it was really, really beautiful. Not just the flower, but the expression of giving me the flower. So I wore it in my apron for the rest of the day. And when I went to the park and I saw one there, I just sat with it. And I sat with it for like 10 minutes, just looking at it, just appreciating it and everything around it. And I couldn't help but feel this extraordinary sense of relief that I got to live on a planet where this kind of thing is possible. And I was taken aback. And you don't need to be an artist to be able to fully appreciate the beauty of the world in which you live. And I find a lot of profound beauty in that. My lifeline and a lot of times is the crafts that I do. Yeah, for a lot of people. And I'm really happy that you found crafts that really assist you in navigating hardship. That's beautiful. I had to rewire my brain this last year. I was so submissive and questioned myself so much unless I'm upselling something I love. For some reason, networking, upselling, and playing the piano in front of audiences feels the same. That's wonderful. Um, Questioning, being submissive has its advantages, so I wouldn't necessarily list that as something truly negative. But I also see what your point is and feel the energy of what your point is. And questioned myself so much. Yeah, it's just about going into the world, experiencing a lot of trial and error, not afraid of making mistakes, realizing that your mistakes are most likely not going to lead to your death. But even in the face of that, you still go out into the world and do your best. And the more comfortable you get with looking like a fool in public, or a fool to yourself, especially, kind of humbling your personal sense of ego and reshaping your self-image, which can be a very painful process to some, to most, I would say, actually, then I think you're on a really good path. I think it's something really beautiful. For me, music was a huge escape, like a soundtrack to my inner feelings at times. I wasn't allowed to externally express them. I had a little tape player and earphones. let me tell you, I also had a tape player, and I wouldn't consider myself that old. So, um, and also it drives my dad nuts. But uh, like I joke that that a certain age is old, but my real feelings about old age are you could be 100, you could be 120, and to me you still won't be old, because when I think of humans, I think of humans on the grand scale, not on the life expectancy scale. So you could be 120, I'm like, that's young. That's and it always makes people feel good in that way, but it's also how I prefer to look at human beings. You can live your entire life, be 120, and still not even have all of the details of the most superficial layer of what it is you truly wanted to explore in your life, even if you dedicated your entire life to that thing. So there's so much. It's the Dunning-Kruger scale. There's so much depth and nuance to the world, and our lives are so ephemeral, which is why it just sparks more motivation to go out and achieve what you want to achieve with the time you have, because not even the wealthiest of the wealthy can buy time. One of the most precious memories is watching a big linden tree rain leaves in the fall. It was breathtaking. Oh, I can imagine. I can only imagine. uh Music is beautiful. Yeah, well, yeah, music is beautiful. um he was only having a bit of fun. Daryl didn't mean to break the bell with his wife. uh Minor earthquake. Fair. My body may be old, but I'm not. Absolutely. I remember I saw a podcast not too long ago with a retired Disney Imagineer named Bob Gurr. He was one of the old men. It was a group of Disney Imagineers called the Old Men. I think it was like the Nine Old Men or something like that. Um, he essentially helped shape Disneyland to what it is today, or to what it was in its prime, I should say. And he was just saying, like, he's in his mid to late 90s, I believe, and he was in the market, and he was running with his little with his grocery cart, and then jumped on the back and just ran it down the aisle, or rolled it down the aisle. And that's something that I did when I was like 7. um, and when he said that he did that, and somebody told him to act his age, he's just like, I'm enjoying my life. You can't tell me what to do. um, and it's that kind of, you know, being, just because your body ages doesn't necessarily mean that your spirit, your childlike wonder diminishes. You allow that to happen over time. Um, because of the hardship and the cruel things that you see in the world, and you try to shape a more realistic worldview, which is a good thing, but also losing that childlike sense of wonder uh, comes very naturally to a lot of people. And if you're able to maintain it and hold on to that, then I think that can also be an incredible source of power and energy and vitality in one's life, regardless of an aging body. So to the people who are able to maintain that, like Bob Gurr is, like Neil deGrasse Tyson is, even like Tony Hawk is, you can definitely see just the incredible love they have for their craft. Um, as long as I have a great soundtrack, I'm happy. Yeah, whenever I work out, I'm always listening to Queen, a Queen soundtrack, or an electro swing soundtrack, um, or whatever the vibe is. Um, I hope you enjoyed this little video that Kyoko and I cooked up. Welcome to Daryl of the Bells. All good, all good. But with all of that said, I went a lot. I went a lot over the amount of time that I was expecting this live stream to go. I like I mentioned, I'm still trying to keep this within the hour time frame, but I got really passionate about our discussion topics today, so this was rather nice. Um, Went 30 minutes over it, but you know that's fine. We needed to catch up over the last couple of weeks anyway, with all of the other things happening. So I appreciate all of your patience in how I've been trying to navigate the schedule. It still is going to be chaotic for a little while, so I appreciate your patience. But with all of that said, uh, oh, Blue, welcome. You caught me just as I was about to sign off. I had a little girl wish me a happy new year at Target today. She was ecstatic with my tie dye, and I announced that she would kill my for my dinosaur sneakers. She is all of three. I'm 72. A beautiful human interaction. I'm really happy for you, Blue. But with all of that said, I want to thank you guys so much for being here, watching this live stream, watching the videos, and I can't express my gratitude enough for all of you being here. Like I say in all of the videos, and I sincerely mean it at the end of every video, but especially to those of you who are here now, thank you so much for being here. And this channel wouldn't be what it is without you guys. So I'm sincerely appreciative for all of you being here. Thank you again so much. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care, everyone.